Death closes all, but something ere the end, some work of noble note may yet be done, not unbecoming men that strove with gods. The lights begin to twinkle from the rocks. The long day wanes, the slow moon climbs, the deep moans round with many voices. Come, my friends, 'tis not too late to seek a newer world. Push off, and, sitting well in order, smite the sounding furrows. For my purpose holds to sail beyond the sunset and the baths of all the western stars until I die. It may be that the gulfs will wash us down. It may be we shall touch the happy isles and see the great Achilles, whom we knew. Though much is taken, much abides, and though we are not now that strength which, in old days, moved earth and heaven, that which we are, we are. One equal temper of heroic hearts, made weak by time and fate, but strong in will. To strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. Ulysses. Alfred, Lord Tennyson. I'm at work, walking the library aisles, in its subdued silence, which are permeated by a faint musk of wood pulp, returning books to their places in handfuls from the work cart. Patrons circle the DVDs in groups, far fewer in the stacks, huddled over laptops wearing headphones in the private booths. I step amidst the tall shelves, eyes trace authors, titles, searching alphabetically. Werner Z. Reed, Tales of the Sunland. Mark Reef, The Road to Jericho, The Valley of Hinnom. Mickey Zucker Reichardt. My eyes fall across the last of the Renshai. 1992. We read chapter by chapter, mailing a single copy back and forth, underlining passages, notes in the margins, little quips and queries. How now, brown sow? Low brow, belated prow? Weeks of anticipation between makes each new discovery monumental. Letters inserted like bookmarks become lifelong treasures. He calls me Rache. I call him Kolbe. After work, walk over the bridge. Many pavilions erected in the usually tranquil park across the Halifax. Wind begins to carry the sounds of many voices, some few augmented electronically. Closer still, the throngs dissolve into individuals and groups. Many of the men wear kilts, axe-throwing, pint-draining competitions, savory smells of roast meats wafted from below. Bemused, I pay the nominal fee and enter the Celtic festivities. Purchase a pint of Guinness, stand about with a group of men singing along to a cover band. I join in. 2002. I'm back from college. He's back from the army. All our old friends suddenly reunited. The past decade becomes a half-remembered dream, as all our old camaraderie asserts itself, without missing a beat. Gino and Jamie wrestle across the cement, denting the storage unit doors in their struggle. Hard cider runs out. All-night liquor store yields tequila, vodka, and whiskey. Shayla pees on the grass for lack of a nearby toilet. Laughter stills as Burton fingers the guitar strings. We stand in a semicircle, sway and bob on our feet. I raise my voice in deep, pure tones, which pour with feeling. Unwelcome dawn peaks over the horizon, signaling an end to our reverie. One by one, our dissonant voices raise, join, become a harmony. Leave the festival, walk down the avenue. The noise behind dims to a murmur, then is lost in the din of wind and traffic. Make my way to the beach and sit down at a picnic table overlooking the vista. Folks in the water laying back, enjoying the sun, washing themselves at the shower, throwing a football around. Wind brings me smells of salt, hot dogs, suntan lotion, cold brews, and sweat, each mingled and yet identifiable upon my palate. A boy releases a cry of shock as the warm waters wash over his sun-bronzed skin. I was him, and I remember. 1984. I've never seen a beach like this before. The sand in Brooklyn is coarse, strewn with jagged bits of shell. Seaweed ropes lay moldering about, their carrion stink palpable. Ugly horseshoe crabs in their unfriendly armor, warding spites dock their length. Here, the sand is soft, pure, and white. It stretches for unimaginable miles. I run with glee to the warm salt waters, crash into the surf as it crashes into me with a rough embrace. Droplets of salt launch skyward by force of collision, burn my eyes, nostrils, overpower my tongue. A girl sits against the waterline, legs out, flat to the sides, feet touching. Water pouring over her slender legs becomes trapped in her momentary atoll. She dumps dark, saturated sand from a bucket upside down, lifting it away to reveal a slumped spire. I was her, and I remember. 1985. Our boat rental business on Lake Osborne has been ransacked by the hurricane. The simple log cabin with its greenish hues and semi-scraped barnacles lay collapsed upon itself, looking drunken and defeated, a sight all too familiar in other context. The Hobie cats are dragged impossibly far inland, perversely askew upon their sides or flipped over, sails rent or missing altogether. Dad rants and raves as his gnarly little dog happily chases him about, sharp retorts from its noisome yap. With unbelievable dignity and strength, Mom rallies my brother Alfred and the hired hand to help her right the crafts and drag them back to the waterline. Alfred leaves Florida behind later that same day, his eyes forlorn and saying goodbye. Another familiar sight. I fill and dump my plastic pail, making a line of dark and slumped watchtowers across the shore. The first begin to fall apart, even as I erect a second line of defense. A group of boys tossing the pigskin back and forth begin to roughhouse. Blows exchanged, sand kicked up in each other's faces. Feints, retreats, snarls of insults, and barks of hoarse laughter. I was them, and I remember. 1994. Driving up and down the strip for hours, hollering at girls, laughing our asses off as Steve does his Jim Carrey-like spastic dances, on command. We park well after midnight and walk along the shore, shouting our banter over the crush of waves. We're approached by a gang of hoods that demands money and attack before we've even had a chance to respond. They've got us at least 3-1. Burton gets his glasses knocked off and goes into a ball. Frank fights back-to-back with David, both receiving and dealing tremendous blows. I hold one of these nocturnal pirates in a headlock, pounding his gasping and screaming face in, while at least 2 more batter my head, primarily from the back and sides. Dominic fights from his back and somehow fends off all comers. Blood fills my mouth and foams out between my clenched teeth, like wave crests pouring against shoals. I go into a void of utter horror, lanced through with streaks of pain lightning. An animal rage rises in my belly like a dire sun, even as stars begin to pour, in slow and fast motes, around the edges of my vision. A fat molar lodged in my knuckle like a battle crown will not be discovered until our attackers have fled, and adrenaline ebbs, many aches and pains growing bold in their internal retorts. A couple holds hands as they enter the sea, alternately floating and swimming, deeper. Bobbing with head and shoulders above water, they hold each other. I was them, and I remember. 2004. The heat of her presence begins to dwarf the bonfire, which holds the darkness at bay. Its flickering tongues raise their lithe arms into the sky in a primal dance. Burton keeps a cold beer atop his amplifier as his fingers strangle raucous chords from the belly of his guitar. Her eyes are daggers of desire, demanding my full attention as I sing and walk around those gathered, slapping shoulders and receiving return blows of a more, or less, friendly variety. As the small hours approach, our coterie begins to thin, as individuals make their subtle or dramatic exits in singles or pairs. I take her hand and we walk into the sea. We push out past the violent breaks to the deep and undulating umbra. Her arms across my shoulders, lips tasting and sucking my own, I caress her beneath the warm waters, pull aside her swimsuit and lower mine. Her legs come around me powerfully as she lowers her hot crown. Our kisses are breathy, torsos grind and writhe below the dark waves. And I remember. The sun glows upon my shoulders and back through my black dress shirt, with the warmth and mild discomfiture of a cat, kneading before settling down to rest. I rise and brush the wind-blown silt from my black dress pants, turn and return the way I came. And I remember. A solitary purslane bobs in the breeze, unburdened by memories. Memento, Mori, by Daniel Christensen.